Once again, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us. Those who have joined, we appreciate you taking the time. And the presentation today is on for our module TMS 3715, Teaching Home Languages in the FET. And your lecturers for this module are myself, Dr. Sanders, and my colleague, Dr. Mukhari, who, thank you for taking the time, has also joined our meeting. As you should be aware from the meeting invitation, the purpose of this tutorial is to discuss Assignment 3 guidelines, and this is the second part. For those of you who joined last Monday, you realize we discussed part 1, where we discussed where to find the assignment. Today, it is part 2. As we've said, your lecturers for this module are myself and Dr. Mukhari, and we look forward to supporting you in your studies and helping you succeed. We're always here if you have any questions or queries. By now, you should have our contact details, but just for easy reference, you are welcome to email us. My email is esandard@unisa.ac.za, or Dr. Mukhari's, who is mukhas@unisa.ac.za. Feel free to email us if you have any questions, even if it's not a question, a comment, a suggestion. We're always happy to receive your emails. Just as a recap, we did discuss this last week, but hopefully by now you should have begun Assignment 3, which was opened up immediately after Assignment 2 was due. It is also a written assignment, so please, it is lengthy. Don't wait for an hour before the due date and then start to complete it. You need to take your time. Read the questions carefully, answer exactly as asked. As mentioned last week, it's no good just quickly reading a question, finding one little word and thinking, right, I know, let me just writing, but it doesn't answer the question. So answer exactly as asked. You also need to answer all the questions. You cannot just answer question 1.1. You won't get sufficient marks to pass. Please check the mark allocation for each question. If it's worth 20 marks, it's no good just writing 1 or 2 sentences. Generally, a 1 mark for 1 relevant point. So if it's 20 marks, make sure you have 20 relevant points. And as we stressed, please check your work for typing and grammatical errors. At this level of study, we do expect you to check your work. We do have Word, which is amazing. It helps us with our spelling and to find grammar errors. But that doesn't mean you don't need to proofread your work. Please always proofread before submitting. We did mention that Assignment 3 is due on the 10th of June at 7 p.m. You've only got one chance to submit, but you can go back and forth between questions and change your answers as long as you haven't clicked on the Submit button and that the due date has not expired. But please, don't wait for 5 to 7 on the 10th of June to begin submitting. It happened with Assignment 2 that the portal wasn't working and it did cause challenges. So please submit at least, try your best to submit at least a day before. We realize you are pressurized, many other assignments, but it's important that you try and submit before the due date. And it's available by now. You should be familiar with our MyUNISA website and our TMS3715 module site. You realize where it is, just under the welcome message, under assignment 1 and 2, there is 3, or you may find it on the left-hand sidebar. If you have any queries of where to find it, please just contact us. We're always happy to meet with you to show you if you have any challenges. So that was basically just a recap. Now, the main purpose of this module is to discuss the first question that is asked. By now, hopefully you've read question 1.1, and it talks about the receptive and the productive skills and asks you to compare and contrast the 4 fundamental language skills for home language learners in the FET phase. Please don't stop reading there. The question goes on to say, please give at least 2 examples of how each skill can be used in real-life contexts, and to briefly discuss the expected content knowledge that learners are likely to acquire as they become proficient in these skills. If you've been reading tutorial letter 501, you will realize that the information required is written in that tutorial 501. It's accessible there. For our mark allocation, please take note to compare the content knowledge of each skill. You will get 1 mark per skill, maximum 4 marks. 2 examples of each skill, 1 mark per example per skill. So it's, well, as we'll go through it in a minute, if you are giving 1 example of the listening skill, you will get 1 mark. So it's 1 mark per example, 2 examples for each skill, which gives you 8 marks. And then to compare and contrast, 1 mark per relevant point. So give 3 different comparisons of these skills. Let's think about the content knowledge of listening and speaking. The learner is able to listen and speak for a variety of purposes, audiences, and contexts. The critical purpose of listening and speaking skills is that the learners can listen and speak for a variety of purposes, audiences, and contexts. Learners understand that speaking and listening are social activities that take place in context and for various purposes and audiences, and that their oral genres and registers vary accordingly. Remember, listening and speaking are central to all learning in all subjects. Through effective listening and speaking strategies, learners collect and synthesize information, construct knowledge, solve problems, and learn how to express ideas and opinions. It also enables learners to recognize values and attitudes embedded in text and to challenge biased and manipulative language. So if we look at our CAPS document and our tutorial letter 501, we find when we are teaching listening and speaking, this is the content knowledge in the FET phase that we need to make sure that our learners achieve by the end of the year. Some examples, which I'm sure this one you will find easy, make up your own. We listen every day of our lives. They are essential when participating in conversations, following instructions, or understanding a lecture or presentation, a teacher's lesson. It's essential if you're having a class debate, a school debate, drama productions, and so forth. Listening to a news broadcast to stay informed about current events, or listening to a friend's story to offer support. These are just some examples that I came up with, but please, in your assignment, feel free to give your own. There are many, many other examples. We could spend a week just discussing various examples. So this is just a guide to assist you. Let's discuss our second language skill, reading and viewing. What is the content knowledge that CAPS requires us to teach our FET learners? That the learner is able to read and view for understanding and to evaluate critically and respond to a wide range of texts. In terms of reading and viewing, the learner should be able to read and view for understanding and to evaluate critically and respond to a wide range of texts. Learners make meaning from text. They identify values and assumptions and respond critically to the text. Through reading and viewing, learners also learn how to explore and reflect on the interrelationship of their own existence with that of others. That's the content knowledge. And examples, I'm sure this is very simple for you as well. Reading is fundamental for accessing information in books, newspapers, websites, and various printed materials. I'm sure in your minds, you're also thinking of WhatsApp or setting up equipment. Let's discuss our third language skills, writing and presenting. What is the content knowledge that is required of the learner is able to write and present for a wide range of purposes and audiences. It's a powerful instrument of communication that allows our learners to construct and communicate thoughts and ideas clearly and coherently. The aim of this language skill is to produce competent, versatile writers who will be able to use their skill to develop appropriate written, visual, and multimedia text for a variety of purposes. And our favorite, giving examples, writing is used in various contexts. Writing emails, creating reports, maintaining a personal journal, writing a WhatsApp response, writing a formal letter to apply for a job, creating a poem for artistic expression, or keeping a diary to document personal experiences and even due dates on a calendar. And of course, writing answers to assignment questions. And the final language skill that we're going to discuss this afternoon, language structures and conventions, one that is not always easy to teach our learners, but the content knowledge that we need to ensure that they master at the end of the year is that the learner is able to use language structures and conventions appropriately and effectively. Through interacting with a variety of texts, learners extend their use of vocabulary and correctly apply their understanding of language structures. It enables learners to develop critical awareness of how values and power relationships are embedded in language and how language may influence others. Let's look at the examples for language structures. We could provide our learners with a paragraph that lacks proper punctuation or contains punctuation errors and ask them to correct it and then discuss between themselves why each punctuation mark is necessary. Provide a short text and ask learners to rewrite it in a different tone. For example, the text is in formal writing, and you ask them to rewrite it so that it now becomes an informal piece of text. This teaches the difference in word choice and sentence structure. One of my favorites is to use color-coded cards or highlighters for different parts of speech. Divide sentences and have learners identify and label, for example, the nouns, the verbs, the adjectives, and so forth. This could be done as a class exercise, individually, or in pairs. Remember our question asked us to compare and contrast. So let us go and discuss some comparisons and contrasts. Listening and reading are receptive skills as they involve understanding language from external sources, whether spoken or written. Speaking and writing, on the other hand, are known as productive skills that require the generation, language, and communication. So remember, receptive skills and the difference, productive skills. Which are which? Think carefully. Listening and speaking are primarily oral skills and are often used in spoken communication, whereas reading and writing are written skills and involve the interpretation and production of written texts. Listening and speaking are primarily oral skills, focusing on spoken language, whereas reading and writing are written skills centered around actual written language. Listening and speaking are primarily concerned with spoken language. On the other hand, reading and writing deal with written language. Listening is essential for understanding verbal instructions, participating in conversations, or comprehending spoken information, whereas speaking is used for communication and expression in daily conversations, presentations, discussions, and other oral interactions. Reading is crucial for accessing information in various written forms, including books, articles, websites, and printed materials, whereas writing is utilized in various contexts, such as academic assignments, professional communication, creative expression, and personal documentation. Listening and speaking skills are often developed through oral interactions and practices, and they are vital for effective oral communication and comprehension, whereas reading and writing skills are improved through exposure to written text and the practice of creating written content. They are essential for academic, professional, and creative activities. These are just a few ideas that I came up with to compare and contrast our 4 language skills. I'm sure you have many of your own. Please, let's see them in your assignment. So that was question 1.1, the purpose that we were going to spend today to discuss. Allow me to close this meeting and wish you success with your assignment.